Why is the European Union actively trying to promote the Islamization of Europe? You might think I'm exaggerating here, but stay with me. I will present to you one of the recent initiatives by Ms. Ursula von der Leyen and the European Commission that shows you that, in fact, the European Union has no interest to get the migration problem under control, that, in fact, they are trying to make it worse. What you can see here is something that they have announced just recently, which is the European Union's plan to expand the Erasmus program to southern Mediterranean countries. Now, this is primarily people from North Africa and the Middle East. Now, some of you probably don't know what the Erasmus program is. Originally, the Erasmus program was designed as an exchange program for students within European Union countries and a couple of selected non-European Union countries. And the idea behind it was that they can have an exchange, right? You have students from Spain going to Germany, from Greece going to Italy, from Austria going to Sweden. It was actually a very nice program. I remember some of my colleagues in my college days were participating in it. I mean, it was mostly a program designed to go and party in another country. But that being said, it was a nice way to get some experience abroad. So all in all, it's a very nice program. It was a good idea. The question, however, is why is a program that was designed to strengthen European identity and that was trying to bridge differences among the peoples of Europe, why all of a sudden does that have to be expanded into North Africa and the Middle East? And I think we all know the answer to this question. The main reason is because the European Union, under the leadership of Ursula von der Leyen, Manfred Weber, and the other usual suspects, are actively promoting an open borders policy, including, whether this is an actual priority or if this is just an unintended consequence, the Islamization of Europe. Now, this might sound as an exaggeration, but let me give you an example from the Erasmus program, something that happened 5 years ago in France, just to show you that what I'm saying here is not some kind of fake news, fear-mongering alarmism. It's something that we already know is going to happen with this specific program because it opens itself up for all kinds of abuse. Now, this is a headline from 2020 from France. Let me read it to you in case you're just listening to this podcast. How France issued a visa to a jihadist accused of war crimes. This is from Le Figaro. Majidi Mustafa Nema, alias Islam Alouche, was indicted in France at the end of January in 2020. The Syrian was enrolled in a French research institute under the Erasmus Plus program and had a valid visa. Oh my, what do you say to this? So already 5 years ago, we had a jihadist, somebody accused of war crimes, coming to Europe under the Erasmus program. Now, instead of saying, okay, we have to rework the Erasmus program, we have to make sure that something like this is not going to happen again. They expand the Erasmus program. Now, you might ask yourself, okay, which countries are they expanding the Erasmus program to? Now, I can tell you that as well. And it's just absolute madness. So, the inclusion of non-EU students from countries in Africa and the Middle East is part of the Pact for the Mediterranean. This is what Politico reports. And I think we can all agree that Politico is not a far-right crazy publication. So, and what they have identified is the partner states are Algeria, Egypt, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Libya, Morocco, Palestine, Syria, and Tunisia. And I think 3 countries stick out in particular here, and that's Libya, Palestine, and Syria, although I would actually also add Algeria as another group. So we know, for example, statistically in Germany, that Algerians are massively overrepresented in crime statistics. So you might wonder, why not would you create another pathway of more Algerians coming to Germany if they're already overrepresented? Now, we know that Syria is now basically run by a former, former between scary quotes, by a former member of ISIS and a former member of Al-Qaeda, basically a guy who has been a member of every radical Islamic terror organization that you can find. And he's now offered a student exchange program so that he can send his people as students to European universities. Libya is a state that barely exists anymore. It's a name on a map, but other than that, it's a battlefield for different clans, for different jihadi groups and all other kinds of unsavory figures. And then also get an exchange program with the European Union. And with Palestine, or whatever is described as Palestine, this is just going to be a means to say, oh, we're not going to take Palestinian refugees. But just look at the age distribution. The average Palestinian is about the same age as a student in Europe would be. I mean, granted, in Europe, you have students in all age groups. You have people in their 60s who are still at university, but they're all in their late teens, early 20s. So you will not have any official refugees from the Gaza Strip. No, you're just going to have students coming to your country. And we have no way to vet these people. We have no way to find out what their background is. So this is an open door to radicals, to Islamists, as the case in France, to war criminals, to Hamas members, to ISIS members, to Al Qaeda members, to come to Europe legally. Now, this is, I cannot stress enough, this is complete madness. But it gets even madder. There is one country which has been excluded from the Erasmus program, and that's Hungary. And the reason why the Hungarian students have been excluded is because, well, as you all know, right, Hungary is an authoritarian regime. And what is the best way to deal with an authoritarian regime? Well, you ban young people from traveling, even if it's a country as European as Hungary. Now, in the usual tone deafness and idiocy of the European Union, they ban Hungarian students from doing an exchange semester in another European country, but at the same time open the door to students to exchange students. I mean, I don't know how many European students then will go to the University of Gaza or to the university in the areas of the Palestinian Authority or to the universities in Syria. But for them, we open the borders. So just to be clear, a patriotic country like Hungary gets punished. An anti-Western Islamist regime, like in Syria or in Palestine or the territory of Palestine, gets rewarded. It is very difficult not to conclude from this that the European Union is actively waging a war against its own people. I know, this sounds very harsh, this sounds very brutal, but this is the only way to describe it. Because what is the purpose of this program? What can truly be accomplished by it? Now, let's listen once again, or let's read what the responsible people are saying, what they claim this is going to accomplish. So that, I mean, it's complete madness. Now they say that this is a shared opportunity for both sides, that this new Mediterranean pact will support efforts to prevent illegal departures and fight smugglers in the EU's southern neighbors, while creating legal pathways to address Europe's labor needs. Now, this is the silent part being said out loud, creating legal pathways. So instead of preventing illegal immigration, what is being done is we just make migration legal. Because is it a labor program or is it a student exchange program? Well, it doesn't matter, because the idea, of course, is that somehow you can keep the borders open. Now, the question is going to be how many European countries will continue to play along with this, but I'm afraid it will be more than we believe, because within the European elites, including the United Kingdom, Germany, and all the other places, there is no sincere political will to stop the mass migration that's taking place. Now, I have to be completely honest. For a very long time, I also believed that they were just incompetent, that they were not capable of doing anything about it. But it increasingly becomes clear they A, don't want to do anything about it, and B, they're actively promoting it. Now, let me give you another couple of numbers from my good friend Matt Goodwin, just to see how these student exchange programs worked out in the United Kingdom. So in 2024, 15,000 people who came to the UK as a student on a student visa immediately applied for asylum. So apparently you apply for a student visa and then immediately people try to squeeze themselves into the asylum direction, because that means they never have to leave the country again. And something else that has been shown is it's not just the students that are going to come, it's also going to be their dependents. So all of a sudden, and this is exactly what happened in the United Kingdom, you can see it on this graph, right, that you then will have people, you have about 450,000 students that come, and they come, this was the case in the United Kingdom, and they then come with 150,000 dependents. So you get the student, but they will, of course, come with their grandmother and their cousins and their wives and their children. So this is just going to be another way to open up the doors to Muslim mass migration. And I'm wondering, why is there no program to enhance cooperation with American universities, with British universities? Why is it always that when it comes to migration, there are these brutal attempts to make it easiest for people from the Middle East, from North Africa? I'm sure at some point they're going to expand this program to the sub-Saharan African regions as well. Why is it always the desire to open Europe's borders to the people who are culturally most alien to us? It is a very, very odd thing that we're observing there. And I think the reason, once again, is there is an elite illusion, or delusion if you want, that really thinks that the world is being a better place, so will become a better place, if European and Western culture is utterly destroyed. There is no other way to describe it. Why else would you create such a program? Again, a program where you deliberately include countries that are either directly Syria or indirectly the Palestinian territories run by Islamists, or Libya. There is no other way to describe this. And the other question is, why is there a budget of 42 billion euros for this? Almost all the budgets in European states are overstretched. There is not enough people. There's not enough money for Europe's own people. But why is there always money for somebody else? And I think this is part of a larger war by the European elites against their own people. As I said, a year ago, 2-3 years ago, I would have said everything I'm saying here is hyperbolic, is an exaggeration, but I no longer think this is the case. Now, I expect and I hope that within the alternative political parties in Europe, there will be an upsurge and an outcry against this ludicrous idea by the European Union. Because this is, again, it's an attempt to keep the borders open at all costs. And just to redefine illegal migration into legal migration, and to reclassify refugees as students. Because look at the demographic structure of the so-called refugees and asylum seekers. They're mostly young men. So if people are against asylum seekers, the European Union is just saying, oh, you know what, we just redefine them, we just turn them into students, and problem is being solved. And it explicitly says in this program that they will actively try to make it easier to get a visa. So it was apparently already possible 5 years ago in France for a jihadist and a terrorist and a war criminal to get a visa, and now they want to make it even easier. So probably because we don't have enough head choppers, rapists, and Islamists in Europe. Now, that this is part of a broader trend, I think, can be seen by something else that happened around 20 years ago. And this was this completely ludicrous campaign the European Council was having, which, for those of you who can see it, it was a billboard campaign with a girl where one half is without the headscarf, the other half is with a hijab, and the text accompanying it is, beauty is in diversity as freedom is in hijab. Yes, because nothing says freedom more than the Islamist dress code. Now, as I said, this is absolute madness. This is insanity, and it is an active promotion, if you want, of the very fears most Europeans have, that in the end, for the European elite, that the foreigner, the non-European, is more important than the domestic population and the native population of Europe. And I think it is time to stand up against this. It is time to make this known. So I'm asking you to share this video, to share this information as far and wide as you can, because I believe that this is just going to get worse. This is just going to become another building block in the Eurabian future that honestly none of us is wishing for. Again, I have no ill intent, I hold no grudge against the people of the Middle East and North Africa. But I think, as it says, they're the people of the Middle East and North Africa. And if they give their best to turn their regions into prosperous places, I'm all for it. But it cannot be that everybody is moving to Europe. And it cannot be that this is facilitated by the very European institutions whose task it would be to ensure the prosperity and the living standards of the European people. As I said, there will be more content on this channel in the weeks to come. I restarted it. I'm trying to rebrand it. Please consider subscribing to it. Please consider a membership. And thank you so much for being patient with this. More to come over the next couple of days. We'll talk soon.